We have the idea that American universities are a hotbed of leftist, socialist, Marxist, communist thought. And I suppose by and large that's actually pretty true. But we have a university here in town, San Jose State University, that is well represented by young people and even a few professors who share our notions of economic freedom, of liberty, and of personal responsibility. I'd like to introduce Neighbour. He is I believe, a senior at San Jose State University, civil engineering and mathematics senior. So he's actually going to be able to get a job when this is all said and done. So good on you, Aaron. To have remarks to the crowd, and I think he may have a few pals from this San Jose State CRs who are going to join him up here. So, Aaron, come on up.
There you go. Oh, look at you. How's it going?
I don't know these guys' names, but thank you for coming out here because I was a CR back in the day. This is a great thing to be, and I love your shirt. Thanks very much.
Hello, San Jose. Am I audible to everyone? Am I too loud? We all good? All right. So I guess everyone speaking today has some sort of gimmick. They're the head of an organization or they're a professor of some sort. My gimmick is I'm young, and I espouse your ideas. And I don't know why that is. Given the economic outlook on this country and what's going to happen to my future taxable income, I'm not sure why every 22-year-old is not some crazy libertarian, freedom-fighting. It's hard to say why we're not all right-wingers. This year, or at least very close to this year, we just passed a very interesting threshold. 100% of the budget, or 100% of our GDP, is now equivalent to our national debt. This is just a sort of an interesting footnote for history. It's also an interesting year because Social Security finally goes into the red, which is, again, an interesting footnote for history. But the truly important day will be in 20 years from now, less than my lifetime away, on the centennial of the New Deal. It's not the fact that one of America's worst economic mistakes, and mistakes with experimenting with human liberty and how much you can infringe upon it, is turning 100, but it does involve elements of that, and it does involve the number 100. By the year 2030, 31, or 32, the government's not quite sure, it'll be estimated that 100% of the federal budget will be mandatory spending. Medicare, Medicaid, Social Security, and interest on the debt. Those four things will be absorbing every single tax dollar the federal government takes in. Small things like the military, federal court system, the beloved FCC, the president's salary, will all be deficit spending. And I'm sure the emerging economies of today will be very eager to get in our bond market then, won't they? Ooh, that's a good investment. I think I'll see a return on that. I actually gave a speech on that, and I mentioned Social Security before to a crowd of people who are older than me. And I did not get a warm response. And I mean you no harm by saying it. A lot of these things were imposed upon us and promised to us in the same way that 2/3 of my education is subsidized by you fine people. But we are here to sort of form a more perfect union. We're not claiming to be free of hypocrisy, but we want this nonsense to end. Now, a year ago, we all gathered here, fresh, licking our wounds, but rejoicing that we're doing this because the government just passed the federal health care reconciliation budget bill. Happens to be a 2,000-page law thing. And I couldn't even believe it to see the president sitting there with like 59 pens, writing his name a half a letter at a time, and watching all these recidivistic white-collar criminals called multi-term congressmen standing around going, yes, yes, and he's handing them out like, and there you go, and there you go. And here's evidence that you were robbing from the future. Here you go, and here you go. These people couldn't run a lemonade stand. But wouldn't it be funny to imagine it? Wouldn't it be funny to imagine it? Well, we all know what we say about men who drive motorcycles really loud. All right, I'll stop that. But couldn't you imagine young 8-year-old Obama running a lemonade stand? So he's talking to his people right here, and he's saying, I remember my experience in the private sector, back when I was in Hawaii, and 8 years old. I set up a lemonade stand on my cul-de-sac. Thank you, Richard, for bringing up cul-de-sacs. I was going to talk about them myself. I had a friend across the street, and because it's my story, his name is Aaron. Aaron set up a lemonade stand. He started early, worked late, worked through the lunches, and he made nice lemonade, hand squeezed. Used the right amount of sugar and ice to keep it cool in the hot day. My other friend, down at the end of the cul-de-sac, named Johnny. Johnny would sleep in, take lunches, take cat naps, often leave his post unmanned. And he used lemonade made from concentrate. Let it sit out in the day, get warm in the sun. And I had a lemonade stand myself, but I never got around to making lemonade. Instead, for a nickel, I'd offer a speech on how lemon pickers are the backbone of American agriculture. In 4 months, I never had a single sale. But I noticed something interesting, things that I've taken on for the rest of my life, about the deficiencies of the free market capitalist system. What I noticed is people, overwhelmingly, would go for Aaron's lemonade stand. Johnny would be over there, twiddling his thumbs, sleeping, not earning any money. He has needs. And so, one day, I said to Johnny, what are you going to do about this? He said, well, I'm thinking about working harder, trying to compete with Aaron. And I said, you don't need to do that. I have just written a letter to the National Labor Relations Board, and they said I should unionize. And so with a 2/3 vote, Johnny and myself, we unionized. Aaron protested. It didn't matter. Majority rule. We forced Aaron to take breaks, leave early, start late. Still, it didn't matter. He still sold more than Johnny and me. But I'm out of this at this point. Unfortunately, Aaron kept going. Wouldn't be deterred. Said he wasn't having as much fun, but he'll still keep on the gusto. Well, this wasn't working out. He was still controlling a massive share in the market. And so, what I decided to do at the age of 8 is create a government. Again, 2/3 vote, I became president, and we decided to make sure Aaron turned over all his receipts. Every bit of revenue that he had, we needed to see exposed. And would you believe that Aaron comprised the wealthiest 33% on that cul-de-sac? In fact, all by himself, he comprised the wealthiest 1%, and yet was not being taxed a penny. This is unfair. And did you know he also controlled 95% of all the revenues on that block? And so, we levied a tax. To Aaron's protest, didn't matter, 2/3 vote. And we gave him his 1/3, which he earned. Johnny got his 1/3, which he needed, and I got my 1/3 for services rendered. Aaron, at this, said, I'm not playing with you guys anymore. I am stopping this, and I'm closing down my lemonade stand. Finally, a victory for social justice. Now, the lemonade market dried up after that, but what I've taken away from this experience is that when you take money away from the people who've created the value and give it to those who haven't, you destroy sectors of the market, and you also stigmatize the virtues of effort, which are correlated with success. Of course, I didn't learn any of this from this experience. What I learned is that the free market leaves people behind. The voluntary exchange of goods and services and capital, and the free association that we have as people needs to be usurped by the heavy and wise hand of government, crushing those on the wrong side of identity politics for the temporary benefits of people on the right side of identity politics. That is what an 8-year-old Obama would say he learned about a market from a lemonade stand. But you know what? We don't even need government to screw ourselves up. Just like he was saying, we could vote ourselves nonsense bills. Proposition 1A, 2008, California majority voted to build a very fast choo-choo train from San Francisco to LA. Was that a corridor that was underserviced? Were there not enough roads that we've already financed, and were there not already planes that could do the trip in an hour? Was this something that needed to happen? But it's okay. We're going to sell $10 trillion of bonds, which should cover around 1/4 of the cost. It's a $40 billion project. I know we're just making light of $38 billion, but $40 billion for a train. I try to put this into perspective for people for how expensive that is. So it's going to be something very fast, very unnecessary, and very expensive. Well, the free market has something similar in transportation. This year, Ferrari just released the 458 Italia. It's got 562 horsepower, carbon fiber everything, E-diff, carbon ceramic brakes. The thing is a monster on wheels, probably the greatest supercar ever built, and one that we won't see surpassed for quite a while. Imagine you're a government official and you're in charge of doing some sort of car share program and you give them $40 billion. And you think, you know what, this is going to be the coolest car share program of human history. We're not going to have trains. We're going to see what we can do with Ferraris. $40 billion of transport. Here's what you do. You're standing here right now. Imagine you take it, get in a car, and you start driving to the edge of San Jose. And you see nothing but, I want to call it bumper to bumper, because they're not really. It's like carbon fiber air intake to carbon fiber exhaust system. You see bumper to bumper Ferrari 458 Italias, $250,000 cars, all the way to the end of San Jose. And then you take a ring road around Saratoga, all the way around the South Bay, Milpitas, and back down to San Jose, seeing nothing but Ferraris end on end. And then you can continue this journey, seeing nothing but Ferraris end on end, all the way to Tijuana, Mexico. A 380-mile pair of parallel stripes of steel in the ground. It would be cheaper to have 511 miles of exotic Italian supercar. Where is this overhead going?